Welcome to No Todo Se Cura con Vex, your go-to destination for Latinas getting real with their healing journey. We are so thrilled to have you here with us today. First off, we want to extend a heartfelt thank you to all our listeners. Your support, your loyalty mean the world to us. Without you, none of this would even be possible. We also want to take a moment to express how much your support matters. Every download, share, and like helps us grow and reach more people who might benefit from our content. So, if you enjoy what you hear today, I encourage you to hit that download button and share our episodes with your friends, your family, and anyone who you think might enjoy them. Your actions truly make a difference in helping us expand our podcast family. So once again, thank you for being a part of our journey with us. Let's continue to learn, grow, and explore together. Now, let's jump right into today's episode.
Everyone, welcome back to No Todo Se Cura con Vex. We are your girls, Maggie,
Jesse, I'm Heidi.
Take it on, Heidi.
Yes, and today we have an amazing guest. We have Nate, who I listened to on a podcast, and I was just so intrigued with his story. So here's a little bit about Nate. Nate is one of overcoming adversity, embracing the power of personal resilience through his own experiences and those of diverse clientele, which include elite athletes and individuals facing everyday health challenges. Nate has honed a compassionate and effective approach to healing and empowerment. As a dynamic motivational speaker and social media influencer and host of a popular podcast, Nate's message of hope and transformation resonates far and wide. His mission extends beyond individual coaching sessions. Nate is committed to reaching a broader audiences, and through his forthcoming book, which will impact the lives of students in Jersey City Public High School, which we need that.
Amazing.
And his engaging presence on platforms like TikTok, which has garnered millions of views. Nate's philosophy is simple yet profound. Rewire, rebuild, rejoice. He believes in guiding individuals on a journey of self-discovery and self-improvement, empowering them to unlock their full potential and live life to the fullest. Whoa, Nate, I'm so
Amazing.
Hey, listen, that intro is fire. Can you send that intro to me?
I got you.
That intro almost had me tear up.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Yes, you are doing amazing things. Women are always talking about self-care, self-help, just finding a way to work on their mental health, like as much as possible. But we don't have enough men doing it, especially men of color. It's hard for men of color to even admit that there's something going on when it comes to their mental depression, anxiety. I love what you're doing, and I love that you are really setting the bar, for people to like tune in and listen. And I'm so glad you're here. So hi,
Thank
Nate.
you. That's really nice of you. Thank you. And I do agree. I don't think there's enough men in the world that are vulnerable enough to admit that they're going through hard times, and mental health is really real. It causes us to take certain actions that are, not normal in the sense of like towards the things that we truly want in life, right? We become blind if we ignore it, become subconscious. So we start making decisions that we don't understand the consequences. I think the biggest thing with men today, they don't understand the consequences of their actions today, and they don't understand the root cause of why they're taking those actions. But just like any human being, as soon as you make someone aware, things can change,
Yeah.
And I think I was like that since I was a kid. I was like the kid in the neighborhood that got the gangs to sit down next to each other and like, yo, we got to talk this out. Like what's this gonna do? Yeah. And both sides of, I was always in the middle of big gang wars as a kid. I'm biracial. I'm half black and half white. I grew up in all different types of neighborhoods in Jersey City, and I'll give a lot of credit to like me becoming a man was when I was living in Jersey City Heights, and I was raised by a Dominican man,
Mm.
10 years older than me, ran his own barbershop, and he taught me. He's like 30% of my consciousness today. He taught me how to be a man at a very young age. So I had him in my life, and I had my father in my life. I had some good mentors, but being in the Dominican, neighborhood, but then there was like, you got their gang, and then you have the Bloods and Crips, and then I was cool with everybody, and I would try to always get people to piece it up, and they did,
Yeah.
because you got to, you make them aware, and things can change. So I think today, with today's economy, and how fast the internet's going, how dopamine is getting people's brains, I think women are not safe in a situation where, if men are not doing the jobs of being a man and taking care of the 50% in a relationship, now women got to worry about taking care of the kids, taking care of the bills, working all day, and it becomes overwhelming for a lot of women. So, and I see imbalances on both sides, but just bringing that case up, Sahara Rose is the one that sat me down after our last interview. She's been poking at me for a year, like, you need to start talking to men more. You need to get men going. And I'm just like, I just talk, I don't want to aim at a particular group, but she brought some things to my awareness, and then you bringing that up just now, it's like this thing that the collective unconscious is trying to tell me,
Right.
So
Interesting.
yeah, I always believe in this one quote that, don't talk about what a good man should be one.
Oh,
I always thought
Yes.
about just being the example, so
yeah.
people make a whole
Mhm.
business out of how to be a man again, and how to tap into your masculine energy. It's like, that's what they do. That's cool. But like, bro, you gotta become, do the thing, and you shall have the power, right? Like, practice it. So I raised 2 nephews. I raised two little brothers. I raised young boys that are men today, all college. My nephew is graduating next weekend. He got accepted to college. Both of my brothers got degrees. You raise men by being an example.
Yes.
So I think we definitely need some more examples. But my intention is not I'm going to be the strong man so I can show other men. I'm just being me, and I guess
Yeah. Absolutely.
it's going to influence some younger men and some people in the world, which is, that's the side effect of it. That's cool.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
Wow, that's amazing.
I was saying that simply because, as a person, like you said, a person of color, you've been through your own experience, right? And I can imagine, like, one of my cousins checking out your podcast, because you bring a certain swag to it. I'm sorry. You bring in, you're professional about it, but you also have your way of communicating that you can also, you can go into a room and everyone will pay attention to you because you kind of have that in, within your, the way you carry yourself and your vibe. So that's why I was like, oh, maybe, just I want other men to listen to what you got to say. So, but of course, this is a collective thing. We all connected and we all have to, share our stories. So
Absolutely. No, I wasn't.
Yeah.
I think what you said was, you were 100%. Like, when you said it's like, oh, there it goes again. It's like the universe, not the universe so much, but it's like a something that keeps coming to me. And I'm like, oh, you're making another connection to it. I'd say, thank you for that. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I must be doing something right in that area because I'm not aware of it. That's
Absolutely.
it.
Absolutely. You definitely are, Nate. You're doing amazing things. Which
Thank
brings
you.
me to this. There's I've always suffered with gut health. And that's one of the things that actually, like, once I listened to the podcast with Sarah Rose, I was like, oh, I went into your, podcast. I mean, just like your Instagram, and you talked a lot about gut health, which is, I, again, suffer from. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting. So can you share some insights into the connection between gut health and overall being, your well-being, and how your expertise in this area has influenced the approach to your coaching and healing?
So how's the gut? How did I get started with the gut and, like, in my coaching program?
Yeah.
So I'll say, what really got me to pay attention a little more, I was a Division I football player, and I played for Delaware, and I couldn't fix this back pain I used to have, this really bad back pain and tight hips. So I was so obsessed with it that when I went to college, I decided to study the body because I'm like, I have to figure out why I have this back pain and this rheumatoid arthritis and this autoimmune diseases. I could not make the connection. So I went to physical therapy. I went to the athletic trainers at 4 a.m. before football practice. I'm
Wow.
doing all this rehab, trying to get rid of this back pain. Nothing was going away. So one day I go on YouTube and I'm like, how to get rid of back pain. And it was this one dude, his name was Joe Elliott. He popped up and he's like, this is why your back pain won't go away. And I didn't want to watch him because he looked like me. He had a good build to him, but he had a shirt off. And I was looking for like a doctor on YouTube. This was like when I was like in my early, like at the end of my teenage years, like 19. And I'm like, yo, I'm looking for somebody else. So I kept on looking. I couldn't find somebody. And then I gave in and I just like, fine, I'm going to watch this guy's video. And he goes, the reason why your back is messed up is because your gut is messed up. And I said, what? And I said, I'm not learning that in school. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then he said, anytime an organ's inflamed, it influences the muscle nearest to it. Therefore, your core muscles won't work. And then your back has to compensate and your hip flexors have to compensate. And I'm like, hold on. What is this guy talking about? He's not a doctor. He's not this. He's not that. And I kind of had all these beliefs. But I'm like, I'm going to school for this, for anatomy, physiology. We didn't learn none of that. So I just gave in and started binge watching his videos. And I was watching this man's videos. I decided that I was going to find where he learned this information from. I had to find where he learned this information from. So I went down on all his videos and it came across a man named Paul Chek. And I came across this guy's videos before, and he's just like this really smart, wise man. And I'm like, oh, he knows this guy, Paul. So I started watching Paul's stuff. And then I started to see that I learned the science behind the importance of gut health if you want a strong core. And I didn't really care about my gut health. I was always gassy as a teenager. I didn't really care about those things. But then when I saw that it was affecting my athletic ability, I was like, I got to figure out what's causing this gut health. So the first thing I did is I did a test. I took out wheat. I took out all grains out of my diet. And within 24 hours, my back pain disappeared. So I went to physical therapy next day. And we do, if you've ever been to physical therapy, they're going to test you with measurements to see if your mobility and flexibility are improving. It improved dramatically. And the lady's name was Lori. She's an athletic trainer. She's like, what did you do? Did you do a lot of stretching? And I'm like, no, I took out grains out of my diet. And immediately they shut me down. They thought it was crazy when I tried to give them this information. And anytime I had these ideas about my life or ideas of connecting the body in some ways in school, I was always turned down because all of them knew that, I come from a very rough upbringing and they knew my mom had mental health issues and drug addiction. And so they thought it was like a crack baby, talking nonsense. That's how they kind of treated my information. So I started to dig deep on it and I went to all my teammates. I was a captain of my football team. And anytime I saw a kid that couldn't bend properly and complain about hip and back pain, I will give them a chart to study their poop. And I'm like, we got to improve your poop. Your poop should look brown, 12 inches. If it looks like this, you got to do this. If it looks like that, take this out. And I started coaching the kids behind the scenes of like how to fix their digestion.
Oh my God.
All their power, all their lunges start to improve. And then Coach Adrian Briones was the head strength and conditioning coach. He just came from Tennessee University. And he's like, dude, what are you doing with the kids? And I'm like, here's what I'm doing. I'm doing this and that. And he's like, keep it up. Just don't let the athletic department know. And I'll keep it on the low because we know. So when you work at a school, a big university, you have departments that are responsible for certain things. So for an example, athletic trainers are supposed to handle injuries. Strength and conditioning is supposed to handle strength and conditioning. Nutrition is supposed to handle nutrition. So the strength coach can't give me nutrition advice because you have a whole, nutrition program for that. So that's why I got started. But then I wanted to know why. I'm like, why is the gut messed up in a lot of people, but especially those in the minority community? And that's when I started digging deeper. So on my off time, I would go deeper and deeper. And then what I discovered is that those that have trauma or rough upbringing have something called the sensitive nervous system. And the nervous system being sensitive, what most people don't understand is that the sympathetic nervous system is overactivated. So you have the sympathetic and then you have the parasympathetic nervous system. This is your rest and digest system, your parasympathetic. This helps you digest food. This helps you sleep good. This helps you feel calm and safe. This one over here, the sympathetic, is known as your fight, flight, or freeze. In a fight, flight, or freeze, what it does is the body doesn't care about digesting food because the body cares about fighting something, running away as fast as it can. And the freezing is not something it naturally does. It's something that happens subconsciously over time. And we can get into it if you like. But freezing is if you're a kid and you're going through fight or flight and you're stuck at home and you can't fight your parents and you can't run away. You're stuck with that fight or flight and it becomes subconscious and you hold it. So that can become something I call a subconscious lock, and it can show up in your life today anytime you want to do something like with your dream. So I look for that in clients as well. But the sympathetic nervous system will shut off the digestive system because the digestive tract is a very long tract that utilizes a lot of blood flow. So what the body would do is it takes all that blood flow and pushes it towards your main muscles to fight or run, flight. Therefore, there's no blood flow going through the digestive tract. If there's no blood flow going through the digestive tract, food and poop kind of slow down, and that's called peristalsis. So blood flow pushes the intestines to move like a wave, and it moves the food through the digestive tract, the small intestines, and then the poop gets moved through the colon. But since there's no blood flow, all that stops right there. So you have undigested food, and then you have poop that's sitting there. So you have toxins that are building up in the colon, but then you also have bacteria that would eat the food for you since it's available and you didn't assimilate the food correctly. So that, if you start from the top of the chain, that's just that comes from the nervous system. So if a person's nervous system is out of balance, their digestion is off. But if the digestion is off, their core muscles are off. If their core muscles are off, the core muscles are responsible to stabilize the lower part of your back and keep it nice and tall and strong. And there's a deep muscle called the transverse abdominis. It's like a belt. You ever go to the gym and see people put a belt on as they do heavy lifting? We have a natural belt that looks just like that under our abdominal muscles. And it's called the TVA, or the transverse abdominis. It comes around from the spine and wraps through the belly button. So anytime we bend, it tightens up and protects the hips and spine instead of the back doing the work. But if a person has issues with digesting food, those deep core muscles like the transverse abdominis, the internal oblique, and even the pelvic floor can activate to stabilize you. Therefore, the hip flexors have to compensate. So your quad muscles, your TFL muscle, which is right here on the hip bone, but you have a deep muscle called the iliac psoas muscle. So they pull and they'll pull a person forward. And it's called the anterior pelvic tilt. So a person's back will start to curve, and then a person's whole posture gets out of balance, the kinetic chains. So we have the nervous system, the digestive system, and then we have the muscular system. But then we have two other systems that nobody really makes the connection to. Those nerves that connect to the digestion also connect to the muscle. It's called the nerve channel. So if you ever hear someone having a heart attack, their jaw can lock on them, the arm can go numb on them as well.
That's why it goes numb. Oh, okay.
Yeah, because no organ in the body or gland has its own nerve connection to the spine back to the brain. Every nerve that comes out the spine goes in like and sews, like as if it sews through the muscle and the organ back through the organ muscle back to the spinal cord, the spine itself that communicates with the brain. But each part of your body, like the digestion, communicates back to the brain and the limbic system, your emotional system. So if you see the gut is known to be where your instincts are. Like, I have this gut feeling.
Yeah.
I got this knot in my gut. Well, you can't trust your instincts if your instincts is not communicating with the brain because it's inflamed. So therefore, you lose personal power. You lose confidence in yourself. You don't know how to listen to yourself. So you start listening to everybody around you. And now you start losing your personal power and your self-will and your confidence. So we have emotions now, right? Causes emotion. So that's 4. Just from the nervous system. It goes down 4. The 5th one, the more you do this over and over and over again, the more it becomes subconscious as number 5. So that's the 5 layers of energy. And that's the framework that I used in the book. And that framework was what made the book publisher very, outside of the storytelling and things, made them very interested in the way I was bringing healing from trauma in a different perspective.
Oh my goodness.
So that's what got me into gut health.
Wow. That's amazing that you say that. And in the Ayurvedic world, like if you go see a doctor, Ayurvedic doctor. The first, and you're like, I have this, that, headaches, whatever, pain here, pain there, whatever. The first thing that they look at is your gut.
Yeah.
Because they, everything, like according to them, it's like we have this fire. And if it's too high, it's a problem. If it's too low, it needs to be like just
The right
right.
temperature. Mm-hmm.
And you saying all that, I'm like, oh my God, it just, took me back to, all of that stuff that I
You made
learned.
the connections. Yeah, you made
Yeah.
the
Connections. It's the same thing like
Yeah.
with yoga. Instead, just your subconscious, the way you handle everything. Again, everything is so connected with your organs, every single system in your body. But it's crazy how you mentioned all five, and I was like, oh my gosh, like if you don't take care of this, you're screwed.
Yeah. Well, what happens is when I work with a client, the first thing I started putting these systems together little by little. So when I graduated college, originally I was supposed to go play professional football, but my career ended with my teammate almost paralyzing me. So I wasn't even supposed to walk again after 2015.
Oh my
and
goodness.
so I went like through this whole thing where like I lost like my community with the football. I lost my ego because I was an athlete, and that's what got me out of the hood. So when I was done with football, I was in a hospital and I was thinking about, yo, what am I gonna do? And then I had to flip my beliefs of like I'm not capable of figuring another way for my life. And immediately I'm like, I swear to God, I said, this is going to be a chapter in the book I'm gonna write one day. Like that's the thing I said when I was laying down. So, and I was laying there and my teammate came to visit me and he thought it was on the pain meds was like, why I was talking the way I was talking. I was like, this is all meant to be. He's like, you took the Percocet and pain meds they gave you for your spine. And I was like, no, I can't. And he's like, why not? I was like, because like I was born on heroin. So since I was born on heroin and I overdosed as a newborn, my father always told me I can't do drugs because I become an addict really fast. Like I'm an addict already. So, that's where my problem with sugar growing up. It was very hard for me to overcome sugar because it was like I was addicted to it, like really addicted to it. So I have an addictive personality. So I couldn't do that. And I was like, I didn't take them. They're in a little cup still. They're over there. And I just visioned that I was going to make something else out of this. So I moved to Washington Heights with my girlfriend at the time, who was my fiance. And her father, he believed in me. He was like, yo, you're a great young man. And he was a street dude who, as soon as he became a father, he changed his life. He became, he worked for the Parks and Recreations in New York City. So he's responsible for like overseeing the parks and stuff. And now he's a supervisor of it. He's been there for 22 years.
Wow.
And he's like this OG in Washington Heights. And he's like telling me I can move in with him and stay in the room with his daughter because he believed in my dream.
That's amazing.
So when I went there, I started my first clientele when I was on the streets of New York City coaching people. Like I would go on the 1 train, I'll go on the 207, go across Fordham, go to the Bronx, train people. And it was predominantly women I was working with that had hormonal issues, thyroid issues. So the first thing I always went for was hormones in my approach. So I went from being like this football captain, lifting heavy weights with men, to like learning about the body in a different way, where my senior research paper was about hormones. And my school thought I was insane. Even if I had the research to prove it, they made me do a whole study with my own self to prove my point. And we had a science lab at school, which was pretty cool. Dr. Gomez was her name. She gave me a very hard time. She loves me today, though. She sends me my love and my credit. Because at the time in 2015, 16, insulin resistance wasn't really respected as much until Dr. Jason Fung came out and started making the obesity code. And then this wave of consciousness went out and started teaching more people about the importance of hormones and how your nutrition influences it big time. But yeah, when I first started, I was working with I would give a person the best diet for their hormones, like the best diet and the best workout. People still won't do it, or people still won't like follow through. Then I was like, I can't help this person unless I get really good at life coaching. And I've always been a life coach since I was a kid. But I'm like, you can't help a person.
You and the football. You were coaching your whole team, telling them about their gut health already at that age. Like that's fascinating.
Yeah, I was doing that when I hurt my back. The school tried to take my scholarship because I was no longer capable of playing football. So they tried to take my scholarship because now I'm like I'm not bringing nothing to the team. But the day that I went down there on my college visit and I signed my contract, my dad made me sit in a hotel when everybody else that has scholarships was going to these big parties. When you have a football player take you to a party and you have fun, they give you $100 in your pocket. My father made me sit down in the hotel right there on 101. That was a highway called 101 that take you from Delaware all the way back up to 95 to New Jersey. And my dad had a dictionary and a highlighter in my scholarship. And he made me read the scholarship, 18 pages. And he made me understand everything about that scholarship.
Wow.
So my dad was always the type of man that he was, my dad is he's one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. My goal was to meet people smarter than my father. Cause I used to be like, there's no way I can't find someone smarter than this man. And I finally found two people, Mr. Page in high school and Paul Check. And I'm not gonna say they're smarter than him, but they're up there. And he made me read the whole thing. I'm like, Dad, why are you making me read this whole thing, man? Like,
I just want to go party.
And he said, Pa, if you ever get hurt one day, you have to know what they're capable of doing, because if you don't know, they may be able to take something from you when they legally can't.
And look at that, it came around.
It came around, and I fought it. They couldn't take it from me. So then I was going around campus telling all the athletes on campus about the rules that they can't break, so they don't get their scholarship taken away. So
That's
I was
what I'm
giving
talking
out.
about.
I was like a rebel on campus. So like I wasn't allowed to go to baseball games. So the baseball team.
Oh my God.
Yeah, the baseball coach didn't let me come to baseball games. So when people were going in trouble, they'll knock on my door. And I had a barbershop in my dorm room. So I had my own business. That's how I made my money.
Goodness,
I was doing a lot of things. So yeah, I was doing a lot. But what I noticed is when I was coaching people, you can't help somebody. You can't help somebody if you can't figure out why they want to do the thing itself. So if you, all three of you, really think about something you really want in life, think about how bad you want it, right? How is it going to bring you joy, love, freedom, safety? Now, how is it going to change your life? Like, how is it going to really change your life? Because usually I ask people when I do workshops, what do you want? I want $1 million. They'll throw something like that out. I'm like, okay, cool. Or the most answer I get is more money. That's the answer. I don't get $1 million. And I say, how much money? And they'll say, I don't know. So most people are not clear of exactly what they want. And those that are kind of clear on what they want, they don't understand the steps it takes to get there, right? They don't have a clear road, right? So someone in my workshop, I remember she said she wanted $3 million. I said, amazing. How are you going to earn the $3 million? I don't know. So now we have to know. We have to take the simple steps. But then if you can connect a person, most people won't accomplish their dream or go for what they want because they don't have the energy.
Yeah.
So if you want someone to stay consistent with their nutrition and with their lifestyle and being, disciplined, you'll learn that the things that you have control of are the most important things to control when you want to obtain a certain goal. And that's your energy. Did you wake up this morning feeling really tired? It might have took you 4 hours to get your day started. Or did you wake up and it took you 20 minutes, you wake up, you vibe in, and then now you're going and you're 4 hours ahead of the world, you know? So it's the small things that we have control over. So that's when I started throwing a life coaching in there a lot more. And then I combined a whole holistic approach. And then I would walk around New York City, just listening to Bob Proctor, Napoleon Hill. I had no phone. I had no money. I would make $20 and come back after paying for the train. I had like $16.25 back left, and I'll go back to my girlfriend at the time, Kaskidi, and then I'll be like, yo, I got $16. Yo, we can go to dinner,
Yeah.
And all our friends were going on vacations. I used to tell them, like, yo, trust me, we're going to make all this happen. She had a dream of becoming an actress. So I had to become a manager. So I managed her career at the same time. So when she wanted to become an actress, I had to study everything with the acting industry, headshots, auditions, lighting, all that stuff. And then after 1 year really tapping in, she started getting little gigs here and there. A guy called me one day, found my YouTube videos, and I had 34 views on these videos. So most people don't think that their YouTube videos or the content is nothing because they don't have a lot of views and stuff like that. Like what's the difference? What's the difference between 34 views and 34 million views? What would you say?
The difference? It's just
what's the difference?
The amount of people. Just the amount of people.
Okay, amount of people.
Yeah.
It's Good.
Is it, is it, it's just 34 million is people probably not really focusing on what you're saying, but maybe just like we do, like go into different videos and not really pay attention to what you're saying. Whereas with 34 viewers, I think it's people that can connect to your message and are listening more. I could be wrong.
That's a good point. That's
But maybe.
No, there is no right or wrong in this. There's no right or wrong. This was not a question. Maggie, what do you think?
I think we focus a lot on like the number of, because we feel like, 34 million people, that means, we're getting there, we're growing, where it's really more about who you're really touching, who's really paying attention. And in that 34 is people, when you become viral, it's probably, it's like, you're hot stuff now. So it's like, but when it's those 34 people are people that are actually like maybe looking for a change, or trying to find answers. And maybe that's, yeah.
Remember, that's a great answer. All three are great answers. It's our mental attitude. So I treated 34 million people that watch me as if they were 34 million. What's the difference? I'm a change because now more people watch me. I should believe in myself more.
It should be you believing on yourself. Like
you. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
So, yeah. So act like if you're not motivated because you see a little bit of money in your account, you're not motivated because you only saw a little bit of weight come off the scale. You're not motivated because you only see a little bit of people watching your content. Nah, you got to trick the mind because the body believes your mind is God. The way that your mind is, the whole body follows. You believe in God, and then the body believes your mind is God, and it's a trickle effect. So
wow, the mind is the God of the body.
That was so amazing the way you put that.
Yeah.
It's
the
so
mind
true.
is so important. It's so important. The way we perceive ourselves, the way we think about ourselves. So when I coach a client, you'll find a lot of times the overeating at night or the self-sabotaging habits that occurred usually can be from a person not doing what they truly want to do during the day because they struggle with confidence or they struggle with false perceptions of themselves. Like they want to do a certain thing and they're not doing it. They want to say something to this person that they should have they want to stand up, but they fear that they'll lose their safety and security. So there's a lot of things I have to coach them through. As soon as you get all that cleared up as you're coaching them and increasing energy, and you get them clear on where they want to go in life, and then their back pain feels a lot better, and their poop looks a lot better, and their body smells a lot better, and everything starts to change.
The trickle effect, yeah. It all connects, yeah. Since as a life coach, obviously, you've had undoubtedly encountered various challenges, right? And I would like to know, like, what significant challenge have you faced in your journey, and how did you overcome it? And at the same time, how do you empower others to continue being positive? Since you're a life coach, what do you tell a person that, let's say the person never wants to, no matter what you say, doesn't want to change? How do you encounter that challenge as well?
Perfect. So the challenge that I face, and then what do I do if a client doesn't want to overcome a challenge they're facing? Those are the two questions, right? Because it got cut out real quick.
Oh, okay.
I'll give you a challenge that I faced. I mean, every month I face something. So, I'll give you something.
It never ends, right?
No, it never ends. I'll tell you a challenge that I faced that it can be. It's kind of new. So, maybe it can be like sharper. I can use this as an example. I haven't shared this yet. So much of this yet. Something in me told me to leave Los Angeles when everything was going so great. My career was taking off. I was getting a lot of celebrity clients. I was coaching Naomi Osaka. She just won the 2020 Australian Open. I coached her about 2 months before she won that championship. I wasn't her main coach. I was the main coach of Corday, hip-hop artist Corday. But they were dating at the time, and I was working with her, and I found that there was some things where if I could help her with her digestion, her core muscles can work better. And she's a very hard worker, and she had a great team behind her. And she listened because Corday, she's a very sweet person. She's a great human. And she made some adjustments. She ended up winning, and Corday got down 35 pounds, and nobody thought I was going to be able to pull that off before he got on tour. And everything was just going great, you know, and I had all these celebrities calling me every day, HBO studio calling me, but I felt something was off in my life. I felt like something was just not right. I felt, so since I didn't feel like something was right, I thought it was because of me. I thought it was like, because I have money now, which I never had money. I was going through a lot of survivor guilt at the time, in 2022. And I sent over a total of like, I think it was $45,000 back over to Jersey. I paid for funerals. My cousin died unexpectedly at 19. My best friend died. He got shot and killed. One of my great friends got killed. My grandfather died. My stepfather died. At the funeral of my stepfather, my mother was beat up by my stepfather's family. They had an argument. They decided to jump her.
Oh my
And this all happened within like 3 months of each other in a 3-month span. And at that time too, you know, I was when I was in LA, I wasn't the type of person to go to the red carpets. Like I would go with my fiance, who happened, her dreams did come true. She starred in Saved by the Bell. She was all over Sunset Boulevard. She had her big face on Universal Studios in Orlando and LA. But I just didn't like a couple things. I wasn't cool with a couple things. I wasn't cool with the fake love. Like I'm a very authentic person, and I saw a lot of fakeness out there, and I said things about it. And usually people won't say anything about it because people are scared to say things about it. But I've realized people were scared because people didn't own themselves. They didn't own their bank account. They didn't own their house. They didn't own nothing. And I started to see this trend. So I knew when you get deeper into that trend of not owning yourself first, and then believing in yourself, and then not owning the things that you have that you think are assets, you can't talk and you can't do what you want because people can take it away from you. So I started asking myself, why am I living in LA? What's the sense of having this big house in LA? I brought an S-Class Maybach, I had like the Maybach trim. I brought like $100,000 car. Then I brought another car. And I was trying to figure out, like, whoa, why I don't feel nothing? I don't feel nothing when I drive in these streets. Like, I feel empty here. And I was telling my friends, like, yo, you don't feel empty? You don't feel empty? And one of my close friends, he was with me on it. He was like, I feel the same thing. And he was a famous, he had a dream. I met him in 2020. He had a dream of being a videographer, and he had a couple good things going for him. But I sat him down. I gave him a blueprint. I do business coaching too. Like, I'm very sharp with the business stuff. In my mind, I am. It's like the streets, you know what I'm saying, but legally. So I gave him the blueprint. And I'm like, yo, this is what you do. And he was he ended up dying on me too. He died when we was in LA, and he did a short film that got accepted into LA Festival. He had a bunch of music videos where I think Ariana Grande, he did a bunch of great things, and he just had a son. And that hit me, and I was like, all this death was going around me. So I decided one day to wake up, and I called my cousin, who's a real estate agent, and I said, yo, I'm gonna buy a house. And I'm like, this is the vision I have for the house. And I found the house, and I bought the house over the internet. I didn't even see the house yet. I put the offer in, and then
in LA or
Jersey.
In Jersey.
I came back home. Yeah, I'm in Jersey right now. I'm like, I gotta go back
That's so crazy.
home.
You said that. I saw a video of Will Smith. It's trending now on the internet, but it was about that. Like, he was like, once you have everything you want the house, you want this, you want that, you feel empty. If you feel empty, like, none of this really, fills
Matters.
you.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it doesn't fill you. It doesn't fulfill you. I had a beautiful home. I had all these things. I couldn't have lunch with my father. Like, what's the sense of having all this? I can't spend time with my father. Thanksgiving is 75, 80 degrees outside. And me and my fiance looking at each other like, yo, what do we do? Like, you want to order from the guy again? Like, the guy, he can make us food again this year. Like, you want to order from the guy? We had this dude that used to make us soul food. Yeah. We had this dude. We used to go downtown LA to go pick up the food and go back up to Calabasas, And, we moved, and when we moved, everybody thought I was crazy because I walked away from a lot of money. I walked away from the contract. It was this one dude that I was doing business with who was really famous. I didn't like how he talked to his employee one day. And I'm like, you don't talk to people like that. And
You stirred a
so-
lot of pots. Speaking
Yeah.
up.
yeah. And I was
Wow.
like, I don't like you doing that. So then one day he came to my house and he wanted to ask me a question, but he confronted me a certain way in my house. And I'm a very positive guy. I'm a very outgoing guy. But you know, he got ahead of himself and he was speaking with a high tone. So I had to get up and tell him like, yo, I'll slam you next time you talk to me like that in my house. You know, like you're not gonna talk to me like that in my house. And then after I did that, and then the next day I saw what he did to his employee, you know, I walked away. I had a contract for $2 million. And I walked away. I'm not
Wow.
doing that. I'm going back home. So I came back home, I bought a house, and that was very hard because I had to start all over. So I had a gym in New York, in Westchester. COVID shut that down. I worked 2 years, built this gym up, beautiful business I had called 1-to-1 Fitness. And COVID shut it down and I lost it, went to LA. Because Haskidi just went out there, my fiance. She just booked Saved by the Bell and I'm sitting in there and I'm going around LA and people are calling me Haskidi's boyfriend. So you got Mario Lopez, you got these people, really good people. But I'm like this little dude in the corner. I'm like, yo, this ain't me. This is not it. My goal is not to go on Instagram and flex on my people and say, look what I'm doing. So what I come to find out is that when I came back home, I felt something in me, something was off. So I just signed this book deal. And when I signed the book deal, I was writing the book, but they were trying to make, and the publisher's amazing, my editor's amazing, but there was pressure being put on me to make the book a certain way to be accepted by everybody. And I didn't want that. At first I was letting it go and I was feeling really off writing this book and I couldn't read or write my whole life. So writing this book is like a whole journey for me. 93% of people who got book deals don't ever write their book. 93% of people got ghostwriters, self-help books, you know? So I'm like, no, I don't. They even asked me, you want to get a writer? No, I don't want to write it. I want to write it myself. And I say all that to say, when I was going through this, it was a moment that I'm like, yo, this isn't my book. At the same time of going through that, my uncle just died. And I'm like, actually I signed my book deal on my birthday, my 30th birthday, which was my uncle's funeral. So my birthday, I woke up, went to a funeral, came home, said bye to my family. I'm like, Dad, I got to go back and sign the book contract in the hour. I went back, signed the
Wow.
book contract and felt guilty that day. I just turned 30, So going through that, I was going through this confliction that I was being called to go to certain places to go meet with people that are really famous so they can give me a blurb for the book and all this. I'm like, yo, I ain't doing none of that. That's not me. I'm not kissing no ass to be on. So this person doesn't know me. I'm not going to ask them to do that for me. So then as I was feeling this thing inside, I was going through the dark night of the soul. It was a very difficult time these last couple months for me, this last year. And then out of nowhere, January 2nd, TikTok banned me and they took my account away. And that's where 95% of my business was coming from. So then I lost TikTok after. And then after I lost TikTok, I just lost all my family. Like I lost 8 members of my family, 2 best friends. I just had to sit with myself and see like, yo, you gotta figure out what is this trying to tell you? And I've learned so much about myself of like, I can't do the next move in my life the way I did everything else out of fight or flight. I can't do it out of survival mode. If I'm going to tap in and really touch people and with the book and I have to really ground myself. I have to really master my safety, security, survival brain, root chakra. I have to really master myself and do things that make me very uncomfortable and that I had never done before. And that's every little detail, like even like rereading the sentence I write to, making rituals to leave this studio when I'm done with it, make sure all the lights are off. Like use that, just walk out. And, my fiance, but you left the lights on again. And I'm like, oh, sorry, I forgot. But I'm retraining myself. And then I told my publisher, I'm like, look, I know the book is coming out. I know, we may have Joe Rogan that wants to interview me and, all these big podcasts want to interview me. But I don't care about the hype. I don't care about these interviews. I'm not pushing that book. That book is not for my people. This book has to be for my people. And my agent was like, of course it has to. Why is that a problem? And I was like, well, because I thought this and this, and I was told this. So I talked to my editor too. She was like, no, we wanted to sign you because we knew that you can talk to this market the best. And now the book is, it just went on pre-sale yesterday, which is crazy. But instead of it coming out in December, I pushed back all the marketing of it and my whole tour so I can get a couple months to make it the book for my people. And we're doing that now. So I just turned in again another revision. I wrote the book 4 different times in 1 year. I'm 1 year in next month.
Wow.
Yeah, so the
Wow.
book is now. So the biggest thing I've learned is about myself is that the inner child within me was reaching for so much success. If I'm a Hollywood coach, then I'll be perceived as being successful. But then if I have a lot of money, then I'm successful. And I got these things and I realized that I was trying to do things to prove to other people that I was good enough and I could be
Mhm.
accepted, to where I'm like, nah, I got to go back to my legacy. That's my real driver. That's what got me to where I am today. So I left everything and I'm like, if I'm really great, I can lose the TikTok account, I can lose Hollywood, and I'll find my way through and pop back up doing it my way again, you know? And so if I'm working with a person who's not willing to change, they're not ready to be coached by me. That's the first thing. I won't coach somebody who's not willing, who's not ready to change. But if a human being, if any of us knows somebody that you keep telling them what to do and they're not doing it, some people, if they don't have a dream big enough to change for, they need more pain.
Wow. More lessons, right?
Yeah, they need more pain. So a crisis. If you don't have a when you have a big enough dream to change for, you don't need a crisis. But usually people that, you know, if you know somebody that gets diagnosed with like a diabetes or like something that can be, you know, devastating, that can kill them, they'll come home and change their diet today.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
It's so true. It's true, but it's also a bit sad that we have to be on survivor mode to then decide that we need to make a change.
Yeah.
That sometimes we don't even honor, like, we are deserving of this, but this also is all connected to trauma. This is all connected to inner child work. This is all connected to our community and, you know, racism and all that. There is this inner critic of inside of us saying that we're not worthy and we don't deserve
Of
the
course.
things that we want. And so we just have to wait until we physically, emotionally, or mentally get sick to say, I want to go ahead and make this change. And sometimes, unfortunately, for some of us, it's late, you know? And I think that's why it's so beautiful that you're bringing this awareness to our community, that we don't have to wait till survivor mode to make these changes, that we're so deserving that we can do it now, little by little, baby steps. We don't have to wait until we get sick. We don't have to wait until there's a crisis. We can do this. And I think that's the message that you constantly are always telling us, right? And
Hey there, podcast fam. Don't forget to click on the show notes and buy us a coffee. Your support not only quenches our thirst, but it also fuels our podcast with necessary subscriptions and equipment to keep it going strong. Every and any contribution means the world to us. Thank you for being a part of our journey. No Todo Segura con Vix loves you.
and showing even like
Absolutely.
all your stories, you know?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I wanted you to talk a little bit more about, because I hear you a lot saying this on Instagram about there's this thing that you say about rewire, rebuild, rejoice. Can you tell us what that means?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So when we go through trauma goes through the conscious mind and becomes subconscious. So right now, as we're all talking, we're all conscious. We're conscious of the voice coming through the speaker and the information being passed along. But what happens subconsciously is we may be sitting a certain way or tapping our foot, breathing without consciously being telling ourselves to breathe, blinking and digesting food, and our cells are breaking up things and doing amazing things within the body without a conscious effort. When we go through trauma goes right through the conscious and becomes subconscious, and it changes the neural pathways in our brain. Therefore, the neural pathways send a different communication and memory to the hippocampus, which is a part of the brain that has memory. Anytime I'm working with a client, I have to help them rewire not only their mind, but their body, their muscular system, everything, because the body's nervous system becomes habitual depending on something that has been repetitive or something that has been dramatic, like a trauma. So you can rewire your mind. For an example, like, so when I talk about rewire, you rewire your mind when you do something over and over and over and over and over again, and now it becomes subconscious. That's our only hope, because trauma has made us a certain way. The only way we can get out of that is by doing something over and over and over again. And it's similar to this. Say if we're walking in the woods and there's one road, there's a high grass, but then there's one that is already paved out for us. But we've been down that road so many times, and we always trip on that, and we always get cuts, and we want to create a new one. And then we got machetes in our hand and we have to break our way through. The amount of effort and time and energy that can take us may be overwhelming to the brain before we even try. So we're trying to see, like, oh my God, I got to do all that to get that and do that, besides just doing one chop at a time. But then this new lane that you're creating is a new neural pathway within the brain and the nervous system that then communicates with everything else. So we can actually create a new life for ourselves if we rewire our mind, body, and emotions. But we're only able to do that if we do something consistently. We're only able to be consistent when we have something big enough to want to change for. Because someone's going to invite you to barbecue tomorrow. Somebody's going to invite you to barbecue on Monday, on Memorial Day. They're going to be like, yo, we're going to have a barbecue. We got some beers. You can go to the barbecue. But when you get to the barbecue, your dream, your legacy creates a purpose for you, and you're pursuing that purpose. But with that purpose, you need core values to protect that energy, because when you start doing these things, your energy is going to start going up and you're going to start feeling better. But everybody's going to try to test you. Like, hey, you want to come out tonight? Hey, can I get $5? Hey, can you send me money? You have to learn how to say no. Right? And most people don't know how to say no because they don't have a reason to say no. I say no to things because I'm saying no to that, and yes to my legacy and my purpose, right? Your yes is never good enough until you learn how to say no. And if you don't say no, that may throw you off a pattern that you was just building as a neural pathway that then leaves you doing the same thing next week, and you lose your rhythm and you lose your flow. So rewiring means doing something over and over and over again to be able to make it subconscious. And you make it subconscious, you become it. So I have a 3-3-3 rule. Usually when we start a goal, the first 3 days, we have all the motivation and want to do it. Right? But that motivation damps out like a fire. Motivation is literally like a quick match. It's not a long lasting fire. It's quick. Because it's like God is testing you. It's like the universe is testing you. Like, yo, you woke up and you told me a dream that a million other people like you told me. So I'm going to bring you guys through some challenges, okay? We're going to see who really wants this.
He's really good at that.
See.
Yes, he is.
I'm going to challenge you, right? It takes 3 days for momentum. We have to take that momentum. But now, when you do 3 days, we clap it up for ourselves. Any new goal we have, we congratulate ourselves. Now, go do it for 3 weeks. 3 weeks, 21 days. 21 days makes a habit. Good job. Now, we'll do it for 3 months. 3 months makes it subconscious. So the 3-3-3. And if you are inconsistent with your 3-3-3, then I have to look at your 8-8-8. We got 24 hours in a day. 8 hours of sleep. 8 hours to make a living. Where's the other 8 hours gone? Whatever you're doing on the remaining 8 is who you become.
Mm.
Can you repeat that again?
Yeah, so you have, you have,
That
you
was
have the
good.
8. Yeah, you have the 8-8-8. So we all got 24 hours. You have 8 hours of sleep, right? Studies show that 8 hours is like optimum for sleep. Some people are not even getting that, right? You have 8 hours of sleep. You have 8 hours to make a living, right? Majority of the average salary in the United States, you work 8 hours. In European countries, I think it's like 4 to 5. But in America, it's 8 hours. Cool. What are you doing on the remaining 8 hours? Whatever you're doing on the remaining 8 hours, you become.
That
So
is
it's
so
not always-
freaking interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's not always a bad thing, right? Like usually I do an exercise with clients where I do a battery, and that battery is your battery to your purpose and your legacy, how much energy you have. So a person may have like 7 hours of sleep, 10 hours of work. So that's 17 hours. And then now they have 7 hours left, and then they'll do like 3 hours of cooking, 2 hours of doing this, 2 hours in that, and they have like 30 minutes to themselves. And I said, the reason why you're struggling with your purpose is because you only have 30 minutes of charge that you're going towards it. You're only taking a machete for 30 minutes, so, and cutting through your new neural pathways. So a lot of people will start realizing where their time and energy is going, because what you'll learn is when you start making money and you start becoming, like something you dreamed of becoming, you'll learn that the best thing in the world is not money. It's actually just freedom. Freedom is peace of mind. I don't need to I don't need to go there if I don't want to go. I don't need that car. I want to read a book today and learn and double down on the legacy. But when we look at that map that we draw out for the battery, we'll notice that like 2 hours is going on a phone call. Like that phone call is supposed to be a 5-minute phone call with your aunt, and like they're on the phone for 2 hours. And she's talking about your other aunt.
She's talking about the other aunt.
Yeah, talk about the other aunt.
You're taking all this time away from me.
Yeah. And so what I do is I have 2 cell phones, and what I do with the phones is one cell phone is all business and the other cell phone is emergency for family, and if my family needs me, I have a code. You have to text me first, and it would say, hey, call me. It's not an emergency. That means when I'm done taking care of myself, then I come call you. But if it says call me in all caps, I'm going to take time right now. I'm going to call you because I know something happened and need me. So the only person that doesn't have that rule is my father. Because if he asks me to call him, I'm always going to call him. I don't, and he only calls me when it's important. He doesn't need those discipline rules and those
the boundaries.
The boundaries. Yeah. The boundaries. Yeah. The boundaries. But another good thing too is to help you strengthen your 888 and your 333 is I, we, and all. So you always, anytime you look at something that you have to do, ask yourself, did I take care of myself first? Then when you do that, next thing is like, all right, did I take care of we, my dream team? So when you create a legacy and you create a purpose in your life, then you see who respects that, who respects your no. Those that respect your no and that support your dream get a dream team jersey. Those that don't respect your dream, they get cut off the dream team. So they don't get your time and energy. When you have time and energy, they don't get your time and energy first. Your dream team gets your time and energy first. I'm listening.
So, Nate, quick question. That's a really good thing, because once you start doing the work, right, everything changes. It's like you have a new pair of glasses. You see life differently. You see relationships differently. You see yourself differently. So you start reevaluating relationships. This person doesn't have the same energy. This is interesting, right? And part of this work is the grief part, because you are going to let go of people. It just happens.
Yep.
And there's a moment of grief.
Absolutely.
What do you recommend when you work with a client that's going through that? The grief that now at times it feels lonely because you didn't give the jersey to everyone. Now you only have 2 people with a jersey on.
Out of 100.
Damn. I lost 90 people.
Out of 90. That's true. It's true. So what I would recommend, I always like to teach people what I practice. And a lot of the things that I go through that are really hard, I actually look forward to it, because I'm like, I'm going to be able to teach people this now. But let me figure out how to get through it, so it's bigger than me. I would say, number one, I think this brings me, I only run into this problem deeply when I come across a 1%er. And it's something I came up with, and I know people have the 1% theme in finances, and there's a 1% biker thing going on, but this is not my 1%er, which I patent and I own this in the category of coaching. As the 1% is the one person in their family that's overcoming generational trauma, poverty, and it's the one that sees things, that knows that they have to do things for the greater good, that not everybody around them is going to understand. They're going to have bigger dreams than anybody around them. They're going to have a strong intuition than anybody around them. they're going to be odd around compared to everybody else. They're not interested in the regular conversations everybody's having around them. And the 1%er is the first one to do a lot of things in the family. First one to usually get, even if it's a car loan or your own apartment, or not get pregnant at 18, or not be a father at 16, 17. The 1%er is the first one to go to college. The 1% sets the trend. And as a 1%er, loneliness comes with it. And I've dealt with most of the subconscious things that I've learned about myself is that a lot of the additional coaching I was doing and trying to prove myself to people was also like, hopefully, I'm good enough now. Because when I was a kid, I was the first African American member of my family. My mother's white, my father's black. My mother had babies with a Puerto Rican man with a name named Joey Ortiz. When I was born, my mom was on heroin. I died a couple of times as a newborn. I ain't come out the hospital until like 6 months. I was in ICU. By the time they picked me up, my grandmother got me. She was racist towards black men, black people. And my father, they didn't even call my father. And she gave me the last name Ortiz. And so I grew up not knowing who I was. I'm like, I'm not black enough for the black community. I'm not white enough for the white community. I had all this trauma. I stuttered as a child. I couldn't read. I was diagnosed as mentally retarded. So like I tried to do anything to fit in with people. I became funny. I became really funny. But I used to use the bathroom on myself until I was like 7 years old. I couldn't control my bowel movements or my bladder, because when you have so much trauma, the trauma creates an imbalance with the autonomic nervous system, and that controls the shifting between the parasympathetic and the sympathetic, which keeps us a lot on the sympathetic nervous system. If you go down the ripple effect of the nervous system, of the sympathetic nervous system being overactivated, controlling your bowels, controlling your bladder, dry mouth, dry eyes, all of that is when the nervous system is becoming burnt out over here. It's like a wire that's overpowered. So I subconsciously grew up lonely, and I wanted to fit in, and I mastered being lonely. I mastered that at a very young age. So it was so easy for me to be lonely and tell people I'm very introverted, and people don't believe me. I'm like, I'm very introverted, but then if you bring me around people on my dream team, I'm very extroverted, right? But you have to
You
learn
just
how
have
to
to
protect your
feel
heart.
comfortable. Yeah. You have to be
protect
comfortable
that.
in your area, your
Yeah.
surroundings,
I-
in order
So
to bring that out.
I am the
Absolutely.
same.
You're the same.
I can
But
relate. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we're all most likely 1%ers. 1% is going to start a podcast, right? Where you tell cousins, yo, I got a podcast. They ain't listening. You trying to tell them, yeah, I got this podcast. They're not.
You hit it right on the nail.
Yep.
Yo, they're not listening. Like my I brought this house that, I brought a beautiful home in New Jersey in the suburbs, and it was a very expensive house, and people were like, there's no way you're gonna get a house like this. And I got the house, and my dad was really worried about me. He's like, Pa, I don't want you to work too much and kill yourself with this stuff. And I'm like, Dad, I got this under control. I got a blueprint. And then one day, my uncle went over, who was like the first role model in our family, and he did things the right way, legally. And he's a retired cop. He's a millionaire. He's the first millionaire in our family, legally. And he went to my dad's crib.
Illegally.
And he's telling my dad, he's like, yo, man, little Nate, because I'm little Nate. He's like, yo, little Nate, man, he made it a long way. And he said, Mike, I don't know what the hell my son does for a living, man, but I'm proud of him. And anything my son ever says he's going to do, I just don't question him no more, man. He gets it done. Like, he may come and tell me he's going to write a book, and he comes with a book deal. He may tell me, so they become believers after you do it over and over and over again. And
Yeah.
that's just how it is. So dealing with the loneliness, I found something that hit on the money for me that helped me overcome it. Survivor's guilt and grief has been something I've been dealing with very heavily. There's times where I wake up out of so much gratefulness in my life, but also so much grief. I wish the dude that raised me on the streets, I wish he didn't keep going down the same road when I was like, I can't go down that road. I'm a man now. I'm not a little boy you're taking on hustling anymore, man. I'm a man. If I get caught within a car with you, I'm going down. I'll lose everything.
Mhm.
And he left me right as my football career ended. So I lost him in my life during my football career. I mean, my new life. I was I needed him at that time of my life. You know, at least I thought I did. So I'll wake up, I'll look at my house, I look out the window. I got this big, beautiful home. I built a studio in my home. Sometimes I look out the window and I'll tear up. You know, I probably like 4 or 5 days a week. You know, I feel it. I feel it. Just
From
sometimes,
gratitude, right?
yeah, just gratitude, but also like pain too. You know, like
Oh, yeah.
because I never cried in front of people. I never allowed my little brother to see me cry, ever, unless my mom beat the hell out of us. You know, which she did a lot, but I'm talking about like cry, like out of being scared. You know, I have this thing that I do, like I'll straighten up my jaw, turn my neck, and then clench down to my side and hold a lot of the emotion and not express it, you know, and I found myself lately, like as I was going through all this loss I was going through and losing the TikTok and losing all this, you know, I look out the window sometimes and I'm like, I'm extremely grateful, you know, but at the same time is, you know, I do grieve a lot and I didn't allow myself to grieve. And since I didn't allow myself to grieve, I try to buy a car to make myself feel better, which was 100,000, which then when I started seeing the true beauty of life was freedom, 100,000, I look at money so much different. Money is freedom. So I look at 100,000, I divide 100,000 by 12 and see how much months of freedom that gives me. You know, like if $5,000 gives me 1 month of freedom and I can do a deal for 15,000, that's 3 months of freedom. If something costs me 20,000, I'm giving up 4 months of freedom. So everything is about my freedom because each and every one of us, if we have more time to ourselves, we're dangerous. We're literally dangerous. If you have more time to do what you want to do, you figure everything out, all the problems that you have. A lot of us are just stuck in survival mode, and it's a system that was set up for us. And when you understand the system was set up for us to stay in this particular system and generational wealth taken away from us and the racism and all that, I see all of it. I grew up with a father that was a black man with an afro that walked around with a black power pick in his head. You understand? My family didn't let my father in the house. My father was never allowed in the house. I had to talk to my father through a window on Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Oh my God.
You look at the next, I don't respectfully, I don't feel lonely anymore because I'm thinking about my kids that I'm going to bring into the future one day. I'm thinking about them. So I'm like, yo, y'all not with it? Y'all don't have a dream team? So good. I'm planting the seeds for the dream team that's getting all this when I'm gone. So that's my new thing. So like when my kids come into this world, I want to be present with my children. When I was with my father and he was selling drugs all the time, he was never really present with me. He wanted to be, but he was in survival mode. So I'm like, when I have a kid, I want to take my kid to school. I already know I'm having a daughter coming. I'm going to take my kid to school. I want to be there during their plays, all the things they want me to do. I want to be present, you know, and because, you know, everybody's going to want, you know, their dad's attention or mom's an actress. I want to be present with my child. So that's my dream team. To overcome loneliness. You're not really lonely. You're never really alone in the universe. God's always with you. Your ancestors always with you. And the more you tap in with yourself, the more you'll start feeling that. And you're always in a safe place.
Yes.
Beautiful said.
That's beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah. So Nate, what are some of the common like misconceptions or myths about holistic wellness and personal growth that you have encountered in your work? And like, how do you address those?
Great question. The first thing I come up with, the misconception I get with holistic health is people believe like a herb is going to change everything.
Yeah.
A supplement is going to change everything. That it don't work like that. The misconception I found as I pull in Eastern medicine to a lot of my work is a crystal is going to help them heal their gut, you know, and all those things are beneficial as essentials. I mean, as additional things to your path, but you got to do the work. And usually you're working with archetype, which is a pattern that happens subconsciously in a human being. And that archetype is usually a victim archetype. And a victim archetype is someone who doesn't take personal responsibility for their own life, you know, and the more you help them and you try to feed into that. But you do have people that are in the holistic health world that double down and make a lot of money off these individuals. Secondly, which is one of the reasons why I don't do a lot of collaborations with a lot of people. Because if a person is doing something that's robbing people or not doing things that are against my morals, then I can't. If I go on their show, or if I, if I, it's like I'm producing it with them. So it's like, nah, I'm not doing that. The big misconception about self help is that a lot of people who are teaching self help never really did the work. They just they found a way to finesse the game.
Yes.
And they don't like me. And they don't, if they, some of them don't know who I am, but they won't like me. The spiritual community that's 100% spiritual, that don't have enough black and brown people in there, they won't like me. And the people in holistic health that are trying to tell people all the herbs and going everything against Western medicine, whereas what they're doing is they're doing the opposite of Western medicine. Western medicine's telling you you need medication. They're telling you don't need no medication, because nobody understands balance. Just balance is the hardest thing to sell.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the hardest thing to sell. If I tell a person you have to be balanced, people are not going to buy nothing from me. But if I tell them, if I put scarcity on them about Western medicine, or if I put scarcity on them about Eastern medicine, then they'll buy from me, because I'm feeding a belief system there. But people won't buy unless there's an urgency, and urgency is being driven by fear. So there's a lot of things that, like, as a person, that the self-help it has big misconceptions, where a lot of people who teach it never really lived it, who said a line or something like that. Jay, I listen to a lot of Jay-Z, so Jay talks about that a lot in his music, and he has a couple bars for that. But I think that's my biggest challenge, that I don't look at myself as an influencer either. I don't even know who I am as far as in the world of other people, because everything I do, I don't look at the hype. I don't get connected to none of that, because if I do, then my intentions is not right. My intentions is like, I do my work, but 95% of the time I'm behind the scenes actually doing the work, and then I want to share it, and then I forget about it, or I walk away from it. And the whole thing is, how can I help people? Okay, that help. Okay, let me go back and do my work. A lot of things don't sit well with me. With people, if you want to do the things that you want to, like, if people want to lead people a certain way, you can't control that. I can't control that. I just take it a little personal when I see black and brown people being taken advantage of. And I'm not one of those people that, like, one of these overnight activists. I'm not one of those people that's like, I don't have anything for, like, I'm trying to raise money for. It's for the simple fact that my people questioning me, because I'm not doing things like how they're doing it.
I get that.
And I'm like, hold on, you questioning me, but at the same time, I feel like it's my job to come and show up. And if I show up the way I'm showing up, then I'm doing something about it, rather than complaining or doing other things about it. But that's a really good question. Never had that question in my life. Those are big misconceptions in holistic health and self-help, and even the spiritual community. There's a lot of imbalances. Every industry that has one way always has a misconception to it.
Yeah. Wow.
That's great. I like how you said about the balance, and that's always something that kind of like bother me. I'm not trying to put anybody down, but it just, like, I feel like everything, especially these people that are into like wellness and like holistic thing, it's like an extreme where it's like Western medicine is the enemy. And I'm like, no, it's not. It has its place. Western medicine and Eastern medicine are very different, but Western medicine has its place in the world, and we need it. Just like, we need, like, Eastern medicine, and, giving someone an herb is not Eastern medicine. Like, if you know anything about Eastern medicine, is that Eastern medicine is about getting to the root of the problem. Why are you having headaches every day? Yeah, you can have, peppermint tea every single day, but you're going to continue to have headaches every day. Get to the point of like, why is this happening? You fix that, you won't need, teas. And I love that you bring that up, because it does bother me when I see like, oh, I'm all about like health. So like, I don't do this. And I'm like, yeah, have you heard of balance? You can do that,
Yeah. My mentor taught me, I was very blessed to have a lot of good mentors in my life, and me finding mentors, I was on a search for them. But my mentor, Paul Chek, who was the guy I used to watch on YouTube, actually became my real life mentor. I study under him. I'm one of his practitioners today. He told me that you can find a lot of fit, sick people. So they can be extremely fit, but they're extremely sick. If you see their organs and you see their blood work, they have abs, but they have the worst diarrhea every day, or they have the worst breath, or they have the worst stinking thinking, which is like their mindset sucks because their body's toxic. And so I've learned that at a very young age. And people, what's missing in today's world is critical thinking, for one to actually think for themselves.
I know.
That's what it is. So balance comes from being a critical thinker. And if you actually problem solve things yourself, you go, oh, wow, I can see the purpose of both political parties, or I can see the purpose of this. I can see the purpose of,
Yes.
I'm right in the middle of everything. So, I think critical thinking is a big problem that we have in today's world.
Yeah. And as
Absolutely.
a 1%er, we know.
Yeah.
That's the
We know what that
1%er.
looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. Jay-Z said, I do the opposite of y'all, not just attract. Like, so I used to always say, anytime I see people going one way, I always go the other way. Because I'm like, there ain't no way that all these people figure something out and all believe it and being led to it, and it has to be true. It's too good to be true. I'm going to go find another path. I'm going to go cut my own little branches in the woods. So I think the more that in today's world, the fancier your videos are, the better looking you are, the better plastic surgery you have, the more perfect your new teeth are, because everybody got these new teeth now. The more that people have to understand is that you're feeding other people's personas. You're making other personas right. So everybody goes into the world with a persona. Persona is a version of yourself. It's a masked self, actually. It's connected to the fifth chakra, being dysfunctional, and the throat and speaking up and communicating. But the persona is a version of you of like, I'm Nate on a podcast. I'm podcaster Nate. And then I'm like, in real life, I'm like, all right, now I'm back to being this type of Nate. And then on this particular platform, I'm this type. No, I'm Nate.
Everywhere.
But to really become everywhere and to really come down to being who you truly are, you have to break the persona. You have to create boundaries, core values, say no, have a purpose, go through, rewire your subconscious mind. You have to do a lot of the work. And people, besides going and do the work, they fix the surface layer of them to then be perceived a certain way. And everything is so perfect that you're only getting people that are also attracted to other personas, and nobody really attracted to who you truly are, which you'll never really be free and really live your life. So you can't critically think with a persona, because the first thing you're thinking about is how to impress somebody else or how to fit in without actually what makes me happy. So if my dad tells me Western medicine is the only way, Pa, and you can't get a license in Eastern medicine, and my persona was to make dad happy all the time, then I'm going to be allowing that belief system in my subconscious mind, and then my behaviors are going to be just like dad's behaviors.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, but my father raised me very different. My father, when I was a kid, I was the only light-skinned one in the black church, and I went like 3 weekends in a row, and they would bully me in the bathroom. I was always bullied for being light-skinned, and not my own family, people in the community. And I went home one day and I said, Dad, I don't want to go to church no more. And he said, why? And I said, Dad, he was walking me to school. I had these blue Converses on. I remember the day like it was yesterday. I was like 6 or 7. I said, Dad, I don't believe in Jesus is the only God. For some reason, I believe there's other things. I think Jesus is a great example of a person that came to earth to show us on how to be a great human. And my dad looked at me and he said, me too. And I thought he was going to hit me. I thought he was going to beat me. My great-grandfather was one of the biggest priests in New Jersey. He had 6 churches. My grandmother's on all the choirs. And my father, I told him I didn't want to go to church no more. He said, okay. I go get a haircut. I'm like, Dad, I want this one design in my head. Chris Brown just got this one design. I want this one design. And he's like, all right, Pa, go ahead. Get that haircut. And he used to always tell me, it's your head. Do what you want with it. It's your body. You want tattoos? Do what you want with it. And he's the one that really taught me on how to be myself. And
Your
anytime
own
when I had this,
identity.
yes, and I had vitiligo start popping out. You can't really see it so much because the curls kind of like blend in, but I have a big white patch here and I had like skin turning white on me. And it was an autoimmune disease that started to happen. And then people like, you turned into Michael Jackson, Mike, and like all these jokes. I just got diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. I was mentally retarded. I had white hair coming out of my body. And I'm like, I brought dye and I came with dye sweating from my forehead one day. My dad's like, did you dye your hair? I said, yeah, Dad. Kids are saying it looks like bird pooped in my head or whatever. And he sat me down one day. I was like 14, 15. He sat me down. He said, Pa, I'm going to tell you right now, man, that is swagged out, man. I promise you, one day, people are going to be walking around with these patches in their head. I'm like, man, Dad, stop it, bro. You're just trying to make me feel better. Yo, 2 years later, Wiz Khalifa comes out with the patch, and the patch thing started to go viral. And I'm like, yo, this dude was right about that. So yeah, I was I had a great father who was a great man. He just raised me right. He didn't raise me legally, like financially legally, but I used to get, I remember asking him one day, we was in a hotel. I used to live in a motel. We was homeless for like 3-4 years. I used to live right in front of Holland Tunnel. And I ain't have sneakers to go to school. I got the same sneakers from last year. You know how it's the new day of school and you trying to go fly with the new kicks. I'm like, Dad, I don't got sneakers. I'm washing socks and drawers and khaki pants in the tub in the hotel. I'm like, Dad, man, can you hustle a little more so I can like get some sneakers or whatever? And my dad sat me down and he said, Pa, don't ever ask me to do that again. I'm like, why? I'm like, you just sell a little more drugs, And he said, Pa, I only sell enough for us to pay this hotel room. Because if I do it like that, then God knows that I'm doing it out of good intention of survival and not greed. As soon as I go over that, I'm going to get caught. The reason why I never got caught is because God knows that I'm only doing it and he's protecting me. And he knows I'm doing it at the moment. And I'm going to feed you guys all this information and I'm going to take care of you guys. And one day you guys are going to take care of me. And today, like I just sent him money this morning to make sure his bills were paid. I take care of my father, and it's just amazing how things work like that. So
you didn't do it out of greed and then to be a millionaire and to floss, No.
My dad was the guy in the projects that all the drug dealers went to for advice and stuff, So my dad's a speaker. My dad's a speaker in the streets, and he's yeah. My dad was a speaker. I think one of the most successful days of my life, was one day my dad called me because I put him in. My dad also had an addiction. Cocaine was something people got addicted to. So, I one day I went to him. I said, Dad, I never ever said anything about his addiction. I said, Dad, I think we got to get you help for your addiction. I was so nervous to even say that to him. He said, Pa, you're right. I do. So I put him in rehab. I got him a therapist. And then he came home one day and he's like, called me. He's like, yo, man, they have these speakers that come every Wednesday. And they wanted me to speak. I'm like, Dad, go speak, bro. Like, you like the nasty speaker. He said, nah, man, they brought this real good speaker, man, one day. So I went to the board of director and I said, hey, man, you like a speaker like that, you got to bring my son in here because my son is the best speaker I've ever seen in my life.
Oh,
when my dad said that about me, I said, I was blown away because my dad, my whole life, used to stop me anytime I mispronounced a word. Because remember, I couldn't speak. I stuttered a lot and I was mentally, challenged. And I never even thought he would even say I was a good speaker. And that was like 3 years ago. And when he said that, I said, you said that, Dad? He's like, yeah. I said, but Dad, you're the best speaker I am. He was like, nah, Pa. He's like, you got it now, man. The whole family knows you got it. So it's the little things in life like that, it feels good.
That's great. Now, Nate, we're going to ask you our signature questions. We ask this question everybody that comes into this podcast. And it is, okay, no matter where you are in life, you could be coaching the biggest celebrity. Beyond that, doesn't matter how famous, how viral, how known you are, how many people you reach. What is that one thing that sticks with you from your culture, your upbringing, that you would never let go? That will always come up.
like a part of my personality or like?
Yeah, like I'll give you
Oh,
an example. Like we had a guest comment. This was the funniest thing. He was like, no matter how like big I am, he goes, I wash my underwear in the tub when I bathe. That's the one
oh,
thing. So it could be
got you,
anything.
got you,
Anything that's rooted to your culture,
got you.
right? That you grew up with, that you can't seem to let
Even
go.
though you can't
It's
let go.
Oh, that's easy.
a bit crazy.
Uh, I the drug dealer mindset. I would never let that
Oh,
go.
yes,
There you
yes.
go.
You know, like
Yeah. The
I never
hustler.
let that go.
The
The
hustler
hustler.
in
It's
you.
like if I didn't have that, I would have been played out so many times. I
Mm-hmm.
found contracts in my fiance's stuff that I found $30,000 missing one time. I had to get gangster on people, like from one of the studios didn't pay us 30 G's. So like the hood version of me, or the drug dealer side of me, I grew up around hustlers. My DNA is all hustlers.
I'm a
Um,
hustler, baby.
yeah, yeah. So I won't lose that. Like the hustler is like a superpower for me. It's like I gotta write 10,000 words in 2 days. I got it. I've been
Mm-hmm.
through worse. I've my childhood is what made me who I am. And most people, when they start to realize that, when they start really making their dreams come true, you become thankful and grateful for the childhood you had. It was very hard, but you see the beauty in it.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yes.
it
Like
made you who you are
Mm-hmm.
today. Yeah.
exactly.
Amazing. Nate, amazing. Thank you so much for taking this time, for sharing your stories, for sharing these are places that sometimes we feel ashamed of our upbringing, but this is what made us who we are. And I love your journey. I love that
Thank
you
you.
share with us.
It's
And
beautiful. Yeah.
I'm so thankful you're here today.
Thank you.
So much. Thank you for
grateful. Me
sharing
too.
all of that knowledge.
Of
Yeah.
course.
You are
Of
filled
course.
with a lot of knowledge. Oh my God.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I could keep going. Then I'm like, yo, I'm like, I lose track of time. When you live your
Yeah.
purpose and you do what you're born to do, time doesn't exist. So it's like,
Yeah.
when I
Yeah.
told you, I think a couple months ago that we could do this, I went in my calendar, I put it in my calendar, and then it's like, if I'm gonna do it, my father raised me to do things the right way the first time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he made that example by making me clean the dishes. And if I had one fork that was dirty and everything else was clean, he'll put the whole
Gotta
dishes
do
back
it
in the
all over
thing.
again.
Wow.
Do it all over
Exactly.
again. So
That's
I
right.
wanted to give you, my I'm happy I was able to answer the questions. I hope I answered enough questions. I know I don't like shortcutting an answer because I want to make sure I bring everything full circle for the listeners and for you too.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah. No,
perfect.
it
It
was
was good.
more than perfect.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
So I can take
Yes.
this too. Let me know when you guys are putting this out because I can share.
Yeah.
I could take this whole thing and just put it on my YouTube and drive traffic there and put it on
Thank
my
you so
website and
much.
stuff too.
Amazing.
And I'll put all your
And
information in the
Yeah.
description and stuff. Yes.
Where can we find you?
Yes.
yes.
You can find me on Instagram is begreatwit WIT Nate.com. You can go to my Instagram is begreatwitnate. My
Mhm.
website is www.begreatwithnate. Everything is with WITH besides Instagram. Some 12-year-old got it, and I've been hitting him up for a long time to get that name, and he's not giving it up. But I would say, yeah, those are, and then I have a podcast called Be Great with Nate, and I'm coming back to the podcast. I took a little break to really focus on the book, but I'm coming back on the podcast, and we're gonna go crazy with it in a good way.
And we need
So they
it.
can
We
find
need
that.
it.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm gonna bring my fiance on there with me. We're gonna have questions that come up, and I'm have my fiance that can pull answers out of me more because if I say it by myself, sometimes I'm like talking to myself all the time, and it's hard to do a
Yeah.
show. So I did a lot of episodes by myself, and I'm like, I get too in my head sometimes. So
It
if I could just have a
happens.
natural conversation,
It's
yeah,
that
we can
passion.
flow
It's
good.
that passion. And you want to fill
Yeah,
people with all the info. I don't blame you.
yeah.
It's so true.
But
Yeah.
again,
Thank you. I really appreciate you guys
Thank
having me. It was a great
you.
time. Great questions, by the
Yes.
way.
Thank
Great
Thank
you.
questions.
you. We
Great
had
answers.
I would probably say this was the best podcast that had the best questions for me.
Really?
Aw.
Absolutely.
Aw,
I
thank
swear to God. Best intro, best questions.
you.
Swear to God, I'm not just saying that. I'm not just saying
you're the
that.
sweetest.
That's
That's
so
a fact.
sweet. Thank
You
you.
can tell you
Thank
did your
you.
research, so keep up the good work. Seriously, that was a really good job.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much.
much.
All right,
Thank
send me
you.
the
All
phone.
the
Send
best.
this to me when you can. Of course,
Yes.
me too.
Will
Thank you
do.
for having me again.
Thank
And
you.
thank you to all of our listeners. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Awesome.
That's right. Bye bye.
All right, peace.